One Piece chapter 1037. First of all, fire chapter. Kaido versus Luffy is really getting intense now, given that we are approaching the real battle that should be coming up, because it seems like these two aren't really putting everything they have yet. Luffy is seemingly just draining Kaido's defenses as of right now and is doing as much damage as he can before unveiling this new form, because the trump card always comes in last. So Luffy has to make sure that he takes Kaido's health bar down enough to the point where he can be defeated once he gets into this new form. Now, for the most part, this chapter consisted of Luffy versus Kaido, and there's nothing really much you can talk about here given that it's a fight. But interestingly enough, that wasn't the more important thing out of this chapter. The thing that really spooked a lot of us was at the end of the chapter, when we got some sort of revelation to a certain devil fruit ability that has been awakened. Now, we don't know what that is, and again, I'll talk more about this later in this video, but it does seem like we are really approaching the climax of this arc, and it looks like we will be getting some lore reveals in the next upcoming chapters. Now, before I keep going, I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video. I know I haven't been around for quite some time, but we are back to the regular schedule. And subscribe if you're new here, hit the bell if you want to get notified for future content. But let's start from the beginning. Now, on Wano's side of things, we got to see the citizens of the flower capital enjoying themselves. Unbeknownst to them is that Onigashima is really close, and for some reason no one has really noticed an island in the sky, because we do know that Onigashima is essentially traversing through land at this point, right? So it should be noticeable, but I think everyone is just preoccupied with a festival, as it is the one day that they can be themselves, and I believe it's also nighttime there, so it might obscure what's really happening. And I do think the clouds are in the way as well, so there's several elements as to why it's not apparent to the citizens of the flower capital, but it's going to be a shock when it gets very close. And something that was pointed out in this chapter that was kind of interesting is that they said that they were going to let out the sky lanterns. I think it would be funny if these sky lanterns actually reveal Onigashima being literally just above them, as these sky lanterns would essentially illuminate the sky. And of course, when this becomes apparent to them, it would be too late at that point, and this is where we might see individuals like Momo play a role, and potentially Zunisha, just like we saw at the end of the chapter. Again, we don't know her role yet in all of this though, but she is possibly someone that could help here. Now, moving on to Luffy versus Kaido. This has been a crazy battle so far, but this chapter does indicate certain things that I thought about, and that is that Luffy seems to be on the losing spectrum as of right now, and I'll elaborate more on this. Now, this fight so far has essentially been both of them using Conqueror's coding on all of their attacks. While it has been very equal for quite some time now, we're starting to see that Kaido's mythical defenses actually play a role here, where he's actually taking a lot of hits from Luffy, but Kaido recovers quickly with minimal damage. Now, that's not to say that he's not taking damage. He's obviously taking damage, but it's not crazy to the point where it's doing a lot to him. If anything, it's just accumulative damage that he's taking and that Luffy is taking advantage of, which again goes back to my point of me saying that Luffy is trying to wear out Kaido as much as he can before going into his new form. Now, on the other side, we're seeing here that Luffy is actually getting more serious about it, where he's actually being more cautious, because he's not like Kaido where he can just keep on taking these Conqueror's coding attacks, because he doesn't have that same durability that Kaido has, so he has to be more cautious about what he does. And here we're seeing that Kaido does seem to have a stronger Conqueror's haki, which is very interesting, because every time they've clashed beforehand, it was sort of an equal exchange, but now it's stated that Kaido's haki is actually getting stronger, which isn't the norm, because when you have extended battles, your haki drains and it becomes weaker as the battle progresses. So we're seeing here with Kaido that is the opposite, in which in extended battles his haki appears to become stronger. Now, this might be due to him getting drunk in the battle, as we see here. As of right now, Kaido seems to be having more fun than Luffy, to the point where he's acknowledging Luffy as a very powerful fighter, but at the same time he's also getting drunk because he's missed having a fight on this caliber before, right? So that's kind of disrespectful to Luffy, but again, maybe this drunken mode that he has going on is amplifying his power. So Luffy's going to need a way to deal with him, as the exhaustion is just going to keep going on if Luffy doesn't end this quick. And you definitely cannot beat a mythical Zoan in terms of endurance, stamina, and all those physical aspects, right? So a new gear is definitely on its way. Now, I'm not even sure if going gear 4th at this point is going to help Luffy. I think the next form that we're going to see is him going into his new form that is using Conquerors, right? I don't think we're going to see gear 4th, or whatever we're going to see is going to be a variation of gear 4th or gear 5th, as some people theorize, right? because what we do know about Gear 4th is that it is physically powerful, but I'm not sure if Gear 4th is going to make his attack stronger, just because Conqueror's coding seems to be a pure use of Haki, and physical strength isn't even a factor when you're using it, right? It's essentially just pure Haki being exerted. So I think a new gear has to be made in order for Luffy to take advantage of Conqueror's coding. But overall, the fight has been very interesting, and I'm very invested into seeing what Luffy is going to do now, because time's definitely ticking. Now, moving on to the final part of this chapter, and here we come to see the Gorosei. Now, anytime we get to see these guys, we already know some crazy reveals is about to be said, and that's exactly what we got here. Now, here they're essentially having a conversation about the Reverie being cursed and about Wano becoming a more pressing issue than they thought. We then deviate to some government officials that are near Wano, and they mention that they see a massive shadow, and the Gorosei responds by saying that this shouldn't be happening right now, and that a certain devil fruit hasn't awakened in centuries, and that this fruit goes by another name because the government was hiding its true name from the annals of history. And at the end of the chapter, we get to see Zunisha in a distance, clouded by mist, seemingly coming to Wano, right? Now, this is very interesting because it is heavily hinted that whatever this devil fruit is connected to Zunisha. Again, we don't really have enough context to go with right now, so Oda might be throwing a curveball here, but based on what we got here, it's essentially saying that this devil fruit could be an ancient weapon, and the only ancient weapon that we haven't really gotten any information as of right now is Uranus, so that could be what the Gorosei are talking about here. But it could also be something else, just perhaps a very powerful devil fruit that played a role in history, just like how we have Law's devil fruit having another moniker of being the ultimate devil fruit, right? And we know that Law's fruit actually plays a role in gaining the treasure of Mary Draw, so it could be the same case here where this devil fruit that is mentioned here plays a particular role in history and has value that is very important in the eyes of the war government, and it might not necessarily be an ancient weapon, but the way that it was stated in this chapter makes us think that it is an ancient weapon. Now, I do think that it is very likely to be a devil fruit of someone that is currently on Wano, as Zunisha seems to be heading there. Now, someone that is highly suspect and that is very obvious at this point is Momonosuke, given that he is currently the only person that we know that can command Zunisha, but we also know that his fruit is an imitation of Kaido's fruit, so definitely it raises a question if that's really what it is. I think it's very unlikely, so it has to be someone else. Now, Luffy's fruit was mentioned earlier in this arc with Who's Who and, you know, the whole thing with the sun god, but I don't think it has anything to do with what's going on right now. And we know Luffy hasn't awakened his devil fruit, and it has no ties to Zunisha whatsoever, so I think that's out of the question. I do think Luffy's fruit is definitely special, but not in the way that the war government are talking about this specific fruit. Now, someone that is kind of underrated here would be Otama, because we do know that she has the abilities to control animals and beasts by giving them her mochi. But what would happen if she were to awaken her ability, right? Perhaps it would grant her the ability to control any beast without any conditions of sorts, right? So again, we just need more context. It seems very weird right now because a devil fruit is mentioned and we then see a shot of Zunisha, so I think it could also be a curveball by Oda here, but we'll see where this goes. But overall, this was a really good chapter. I really like these chapters when we get fights, and of course when it comes to lore in One Piece, that's definitely everyone's favorite, right? So great chapter. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I would appreciate it if you dropped a like on this video, comment down below what you guys think, subscribe for more One Piece content on this channel. You can follow me on Twitter at FerrisSpace. But it is Farrah, guys, and I will see you folks later. Peace.